Assalamu alaikum everyone. My name is Sheikh Ali Iqbal, and today I'll be the host of this discussion on the topic of the architects of Aligarh Movement, how Sir Syed's companion built AMU
Can
and what it
कोई
asks
बोल रहा
of
है क्या?
the youth today.
I am confused.
Before starting, I would like to request Mr. Fazlullah for the credits as per the tradition.
तेरी
Assalamu alaikum.
वालेकुम अस्सलाम। आई थिंक मेरे स्पीकर में कोई प्रॉब्लम थी लग रहा है। मेरी आवाज आ रही है?
Yes,
हेलो?
sir. Yes, sir.
ओके, थैंक यू।
Mr. Fazlullah.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. يسبح لله ما في السماوات وما في الأرض الملك القدوس العزيز الحكيم. هو الذي بعث في الأمين رسولا منهم يتلو عليهم آياته ويزكيهم ويعلمهم الكتاب والحكمة وإن كانوا من قبل لفي ضلال مبين. وآخرين منهم لما يلحقوا بهم وهو العزيز الحكيم. ذلك فضل الله يؤتيه من يشاء والله ذو الفضل العظيم. صدق الله العظيم.
Thank you, Mr. Fazlullah, for this beautiful recitation of the Quran. Today's important session, the architects of the Aligarh Movement, how Sir Syed's companion built AMU and what it asks of the youth today, is being proudly organized by the Aligarh Renaissance, a distinguished social, educational, and community-driven organization committed to reviving the spirit and mission of the Aligarh movement. Founded by Mr. Azfar Ali Khan, Aligarh Renaissance has emerged as a global platform dedicated to social empowerment, social awareness, youth development, intellectual revival inspired by the vision of Sir Syed Ahmad Khan. The organization proudly carries international presence with chapters across USA, Netherlands, Canada, Italy, Qatar, UAE, and Saudi Arabia, while maintaining active grassroots networks in India, including Aligarh, Agra, Bareilly, Delhi, and Pilibhit. Aligarh Renaissance is officially registered under the Society's Registration Act of 1860 and is recognized by several important government institutions, including Niti Aayog, the Ministry of Education, the Ministry of Tribal Affairs, and the Ministry of Social Justice and Empowerment. Inspired by the timeless teachings and reformative vision of Sir Syed Ahmad Khan, the organization works continuously for the social, educational, and intellectual upliftment of the community. Through seminars, youth discussions, awareness programs, educational initiatives, mentorships, and community engagement, Aligarh Renaissance strives to empower the younger generation and reconnect them with the values of unity, modern education, leadership, and nation building. This session is not merely a discussion about history, it is an effort to remind the today's youth that the Aligarh movement was never by an individual alone. It was strengthened by the companions, visionaries, reformers, educators, and ordinary people who believe in extraordinary change. Aligarh Renaissance seeks to continue the same legacy by creating informed, responsible, and empowered future leaders. We believe that coming together, supporting one another, and investing in education and awareness, we can build a stronger and more progressive society. On behalf of Aligarh Renaissance, we extend our heartfelt gratitude to all participants, speakers, alumni, and the supporters for joining this meaningful initiative. Let us work together to carry forward the message of Sir Syed Ahmad Khan and build a brighter future for generations to come. One of the most beautiful aspects of the Aligarh movement has been the role of youth in carrying forward the mission of knowledge, reform, and social awakening. Today's session becomes even more special as our young presenters step forward to speak about the great companions of Sir Syed Ahmad Khan, whose contributions laid the foundation of Aligarh movement and ultimately the Aligarh Muslim University. These young voices represent the future of the community and the continuation of intellectual legacy of Aligarh. We are delighted to begin our presentation segment with our first presenter. I would like to call Miss Maria Afsar, a BUMS student of AMU, who will be speaking on the inspiring personality and contribution of Raja Jai Kishan Das. Miss Maria Afsar.
Assalamu alaikum, sir. Am I audible? Am I audible, sir?
Sure.
Yes.
Okay. My presentation is visible, sir?
Yes.
Okay, sir. अस्सलाम वालेकुम सर, मेरा नाम मारिया अफसर है और मैं अजमल खान तिबिया कॉलेज में सेकंड प्रॉफ की स्टूडेंट हूँ। और जैसे कि आज हमारी जो प्रेजेंटेशन का टॉपिक है वो है कंपेनियंस ऑफ सर सैयद अहमद खान, जिन्होंने कंट्रीब्यूट किया हो अलीगढ़ मुस्लिम यूनिवर्सिटी में। सर, जैसे कि मैंने आगाज इस शेर से किया है कि अज़्मी सफर में जो सरेदस्त थे साथ उनके, वो चिरागे इल्म जो रोशन हुए थे रात उनके, तहजीब व तालीम का जो कारवां चला, कदम से कदम मिलाकर चले थे जज्बात उनके। अलीगढ़ तहरीक एक ऐसी तहरीक है जिसमें सिर्फ सर सैयद का ही रोल इम्पोर्टेंट नहीं है, बल्कि उनके साथ जो उनके अहम रफ़क़ा जुड़े, उनका तज़किरा करना बहुत ज़रूरी है। सदर सदर अली वक़ार, अगर मैं बात करूं रफ़क़ा की, तो उससे पहले मैं समझती हूँ कि हमें समझना चाहिए कि एजुकेशनल रिफॉर्म की क्या ज़रूरत थी, रिवॉल्ट ऑफ 1857 क्या था, क्या अलीगढ़ तहरीक थी। हालांकि मैं इसकी पूरी हिस्ट्री में नहीं जाऊंगी क्योंकि हमारा वक्त सिर्फ मुख्तसर सा है। मैं बस इतना बताऊंगी कि जब रिवॉल्ट ऑफ 1857 हो गया था तो मुसलमानों ने काफी कुछ फेस किया, मुसलमानों को उसका जिम्मेदार ठहराया जा रहा था। तब सर सैयद ने ये महसूस किया कि मुसलमान सिर्फ इल्मी तौर पर ही पीछे नहीं है, बल्कि बल्कि तहजीबी और हमारी दीनी तालीम जिसको हम समझते हैं, जिसको हम मुकद्दम रखते हैं दुनियावी तालीम से, हम उसमें भी पीछे हैं। यही वजह थी कि सर सैयद ने खुद 1857 में इंग्लैंड का सफर किया था। सर जब हम मेजर कंपेनियंस की बात करते हैं तो अक्सर और बेशतर हम अली, नवाब मोहसिन साहब, नवाब वक़ारुल मुल्क साहब, शिबली नौमानी साहब, मौलाना अल्ताफ हुसैन हाली, उनकी मशहूर किताब लिखी हुई हयात जावेद, थियोडोर बेक और भी रुफ़क़ा जिनका नाम हमारे ज़हन में आता है, लेकिन अक्सर नॉन मुस्लिम कंपेनियंस को भूल जाते हैं या फिर हम खामोश हो जाते हैं या हमें मालूम ही नहीं होता है। तो यही वजह है क्योंकि हमारे प्रेजेंटेशन में ये बताया गया है कि हमें किसी एक कंपेनियन के ऊपर ही रोशनी डाली है, ना कि सबके ऊपर। तो मैंने खुद जानबूझकर राजा जय किशन दास जी को चुना ताकि हमें पता चले कि नॉन मुस्लिम्स का क्या कंट्रीब्यूशन रहा है। तो राजा जय किशन दास जी 24 नवंबर 1832 में मुरादाबाद यूपी में पैदा हुए थे और उनका इंतकाल 1905 में 30 अप्रैल में हो गया था। काफी मुहज़्ज़ब तरीन घराने में उनकी पैदाइश हुई थी और उन्होंने अपनी इब्तदाई तालीम वहीं मुरादाबाद और यूपी से ही मुकम्मल की थी और वो उन्होंने सिविल सर्विसेज को ज्वाइन किया था और अलीगढ़ डिस्ट्रिक्ट में वो डिप्टी कलेक्टर की पोस्ट से रिटायर हुए थे। उनका नाम जय किशन दास जी था, लेकिन ये जो राजा नाम के आगे लगा है ये टाइटल ब्रिटिश गवर्नमेंट ने ही उनको दिया था इन इन 1860 और उसके बाद उनको एक और टाइटल मिला था दैट इज ऑफ CSI, जो कि गवर्नमेंट ब्रिटिश गवर्नमेंट उन लोगों को उन चुनिंदा लोगों को दिया करती है जिन्होंने उनके 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 बेसिकली उनके मैनेजमेंट में सपोर्ट किया हो। तो कहीं ना कहीं एक चीज हमें यहाँ समझ आती है कि सर सैयद साहब भी गवर्नमेंट को सपोर्ट में थे, गवर्नमेंट की चीजों को जो जो कम्युनिटी के सपोर्ट में है उस चीज के सपोर्ट में थे और राजा जय किशन दास भी उस चीज के सपोर्ट में थे। हालांकि इसी बिना पर उनको काफी मुखालफत का सामना करना पड़ा। हम बात करते हैं आखिर कैसे सर सैयद साहब की मुलाकात राजा जय किशन दास जी से हुई और कैसे कैसे सर सैयद की विजन से वो इन्फ्लुएंस हुए। तो जो काफी सारे हमें मालूम है काफी सारे आर्टिकल सर सैयद लिखते थे। तो एक आर्टिकल उन्होंने पढ़ा सर सैयद का लॉयल मोहम्मडन्स ऑफ इंडिया से, जहां पर उनको ये बात तो बहुत अच्छी लगी जय किशन दास जी को कि हाँ भाई सर सैयद जो है वो साइंटिफिक सोसाइटी के थ्रू मगरिबी तालीम को आगे बढ़ाना चाह रहे हैं, लेकिन उनके जहन में एक बात आई। उन्होंने सोचा कि भाई सर सैयद तो सैयद घराने से हैं और मुसलमानों के आला तरीन घराने से उनका ताल्लुक है, तो कहीं ना कहीं वो तालीम जो है वो मुसलमानों को ही देंगे, उसमें नॉन मुस्लिम या हिंदुओं का कोई रोल नहीं होगा। बट हमें मालूम है कि 1857 में जब सर सैयद ने मुरादाबाद में एक फारसी का मदरसा कायम किया था, उस मदरसे में राजा जय किशन दास जी वहां पर गए थे और वहां पर अपनी आंखों से देखा था कि सर सैयद के यहाँ नॉन मुस्लिम स्टूडेंट बैठे हुए हैं, मुस्लिम स्टूडेंट बैठे हुए हैं, सर सैयद बिला तफरीक के वो तमाम तमाम स्टूडेंट्स को लेक्चर दे रहे हैं, तमाम स्टूडेंट्स की तरबियत कर रहे हैं और उन्हें महसूस हुआ कि भाई सिर्फ विजन ही स्ट्रांग नहीं है सर सैयद का, उनका कैरेक्टर भी बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट है और वो भी बहुत स्ट्रांग है और वहीं से वो इन्फ्लुएंस हो गए और उनके इस चीज को उन्होंने अप्रिशिएट किया और यहीं से उनकी दोस्ती का आगाज हुआ और इतनी मजबूत दोस्ती हो गई कि 1863 में सर सैयद ने जब साइंटिफिक सोसाइटी का एस्टेब्लिशमेंट किया था, तो वो जब वहां वो अलीगढ़ लेकर आए तो राजा साहब ने सिर्फ उस सोसाइटी को सपोर्ट ही नहीं किया बल्कि दूसरे लोगों को भी बुलाया और उनसे कहा कि आप इस सोसाइटी के बारे में देखें, ये जो मगरबी दुनिया की तालीमात है उसको देसी जबान में ट्रांसलेट कर कर पढ़ा रही है। और सर सैयद जब अलीगढ़ अलीगढ़ मूव किए तब साइंटिफिक सोसाइटी के मूवमेंट में खुद राजा जय किशन दास जी सर सैयद के साथ थे। एक वक्त ऐसा आया क्योंकि उस दौरान सर सैयद खुद ब्रिटिश गवर्नमेंट के अंडर काम कर रहे थे, ये बात हमें मालूम है। सर सैयद को वहां पर जाना पड़ गया जुडिशियल सर्विसेज की वजह से 15 अगस्त 1867 को बनारस में। अब सर सैयद वहां भी जाना जरूरी था, अब पीछे सोसाइटी को किसको छोड़कर जाए, सोसाइटी को किसके ऊपर। तो एक अहम तरीन जो उनको इंसान नजर आए वो राजा जय किशन दास जी के थे और 15 अगस्त 1867 के हाथ 67 में राजा जय किशन दास जी को एज अ सेक्रेटरी वो साइंटिफिक सोसाइटी का बनाकर चले गए और राजा जय किशन दास जी ने बखूबी इस काम को अंजाम दिया, सिंसियरिटी के साथ को अंजाम दिया और जो मॉन्यूमेंट्स जो जो बिल्डिंग्स अधूरी रह गई थी उस दौर में उन्होंने इनको कंप्लीट किया। 21 फरवरी 1874 को राजा जयकिशन दास जी इलाहाबाद में ट्रांसफर हो गए। जब उनके फेयरवेल फंक्शन था तो सर सैयद साहब ने खुद अपने स्पीचेस के जरिए उनको अप्रिशिएट किया था, उनके वर्क को, और उनकी काफी तारीफ भी की थी। बताए इश्क होता है क्या, आगे आगे देखना होता है क्या। ये शेर मैंने हयाते जावेद अल्ताफ हुसैन हाजी की लिखी हुई किताब से लिया है, जो उन्होंने लिखा था। उसके बाद अगर हम उनके अचीवमेंट्स की बात करें तो वो अलीगढ़ इंस्टीट्यूट कैडेट के राजा जय किशन दास जी ऑफिशिएटिंग एडिटर भी थे। साथ ही साथ आप उनकी तालीम का यहाँ से अंदाजा लगा सकते हैं कि वाइस रॉय ने उनको खुद अपॉइंट किया था कैलकाटा यूनिवर्सिटी में इन 1876। सवाल उठता है कि आखिर क्या लीगेसी, क्या छाप छोड़ कर गए। तो अगर हम एजुकेशन लीगेसी की बात करें तो हमें मालूम है कि उन्होंने साइंटिफिक सोसाइटी को तो सपोर्ट किया ही किया, अ, साथ ही साथ चीजों को भी सपोर्ट किया सर सैयद की। और और जो सिंबल है हिंदू मुस्लिम यूनिटी का, उस हिंदू मुस्लिम यूनिटी के अ, उस हिंदू मुस्लिम आज के टाइम पे जहाँ हम टॉक्सिसिटी देख रहे हैं, वहां पर हम देख सकते हैं कि हमारी तारीख में लोग आपस में यूनाइट हुए हैं और एजुकेशन को इम्पोर्टेंस दी है और सामने निकल कर आए। इसके साथ साथ ऑनर्ड बाय अलीगढ़ मुस्लिम यूनिवर्सिटी में। मैं आपको बताती चलूं कि स्क्रैचिंग हॉल में जो व्हाइट प्लेट्स लगे हैं उसमें राजा जयकिशन दास जी का नाम भी है। जब सर रॉस मसूद साहब जो सर सैयद के पोते हैं, तब उनके बिस्मिल्लाह पर जयकिशन दास जी आए और उन्होंने इनाम में उनको 500 रुपए दिए, और वो 500 रुपए डोनेट कर दिए सर सैयद ने अलीगढ़ मुस्लिम मोहम्मदन एंग्लो ओरिएंटल कॉलेज के लिए। और मोहम्मदन एंग्लो ओरिएंटल कॉलेज में क्योंकि उनका ये डोनेशन है और उनका नाम आज भी उस वाइट प्लेट पे स्ट्रेचिंग हॉल में लिखा हुआ है। साथ ही साथ अगर हम बात करें उनके नाम की एक हॉस्टल की, मैं आपको बताती चलूं, शायद आप में से बहुत लोगों को ये बात मालूम होगी कि सर सुलेमान हॉल में एक एक पार्ट है, एक हॉस्टल का पार्ट है जिसे राजा जयकिशन दास जी के नाम से ही ऑनर किया गया है। और जिस दिन उनका इंतकाल हुआ था, उनके इंतकाल के दिन मोहम्मदन एंग्लो ओरिएंटल कॉलेज में एक दिन की छुट्टी मनाई गई थी और रखी गई थी। आखिर हमारे टुडेज यूथ को क्या मैसेज मिलता है, फिर हम क्या सीखते हैं इससे, या हमारे लिए क्या मैसेज है। तो सबसे पहला मैसेज तो यही है कि प्रायोरिटाइज एजुकेशन, वी शुड प्रायोरिटाइज एजुकेशन, हमें अपनी एजुकेशन को अव्वल तरीन दर्जे पे रखना है। दूसरी चीज प्रमोट यूनिटी, ये जो आज के दौर में जो इख्तिलाफ फैले हुए हैं, इख्तिलाफ को साइड में रख के वर्क बियॉन्ड रिलीजन, हमें इत्तेहाद की जरूरत है। हम आए और तालीम और तरबियत पर बात करें, ना कि फिजूल के ऐसी बातों पर जो जो हमारे समाज में नेगेटिविटी का काम करे। इसके अलावा सोसाइटी को उन्होंने सर किया, साइंटिफिक थिंकिंग की बात की, ये मैं बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट इस पे जोर डालना चाहूंगी। डेवलप साइंटिफिक थिंकिंग, क्योंकि मैं खुद एक यूनानी मेडिसिन, ट्रेडिशनल मेडिसिन से ताल्लुक रखती हूँ। जहाँ पर हमको स्टेटमेंट कहते हैं तो उसका वाई में आंसर हमें देना होता है। साइंटिफिक नॉलेज में यही चीज सर सैयद ने कही थी कि हम कोई इस जब सर सैयद चंदा मांग रहे थे तो एक शख्स ने उन्हें चंदा देने से इनकार करते हुए कहा कि सर सैयद हम नहीं अपने बच्चों को अंग्रेज बनाना चाहते। तब सर सैयद ने कहा कि क्या हर्ज है कि अगर हमारे बच्चे तालीम और तरबियत में अंग्रेजों जैसे हों और तहजीब के मामले में दीनदार हो, और लीड विद कैरेक्टर एंड कंटिन्यू टू अलीगढ़ मिशन। यही हमारा मेन मोटिव है कि हम कैरेक्टर के साथ लीड करें, जैसे कि जय किशन दास जी ने पहले ही प्रेडिक्ट कर लिया था, हालांकि उनका प्रोडिक्शन गलत था कि शायद सर सैयद मुस्लिम्स को ही सपोर्ट करेंगे, बट आफ्टर दैट कि उन्होंने देखा कि नहीं भाई सर सैयद तो सबको सपोर्ट कर रहे हैं, तो हमें लीड विद कैरेक्टर, कैरेक्टर एक बहुत बड़ा रोल होता है जो इन्फ्लुएंस करता है लोगों को आपकी तरफ। कंटिन्यू टू अलीगढ़ मिशन, तो जरूरी है कि हम यही एजुकेशन को जो जो सर सैयद देकर चले गए हैं उसको आगे आगे कंटिन्यू रखें, क्योंकि हम यूथ हैं। अगर हमारी ही मेंटेलिटी सही नहीं होगी, अगर हमें सही और गलत का फर्क नहीं मालूम होगा, तो अपनी फ्यूचर जनरेशन को क्या बताएंगे। तो दैट्स इट, थैंक यू सर।
Thank you, Ms. Maria sir, for this insightful presentation on the contribution of Raja Jayakishan Das. Next, we have the second presenter, Ms. Anshra Naz, an alumna of Aligarh Muslim University, who will present on the remarkable services and leadership of Waqarul Mulk.
Am I
Ms.
audible?
Anshra Naz.
Am I audible?
Yes.
Is my screen visible?
Yes.
Honorable judges, distinguished members, fellow presenters, and everyone joining us online. A very good evening to all of you. My name is Anshra Naz, and today I'll be presenting on the topic Companions of Sir Syed Ahmad Khan and their contribution to Aligarh Muslim University. When we look back at the grand narratives of history, we often fall into the trap of looking at a single individual. When we look at the monumental legacy, that is Aligarh Muslim University, our eyes naturally rest upon its iconic founder, Sir Syed Ahmad Khan. But, ladies and gentlemen, grand intellectual revolutions are never fought by a single warrior. Sir Syed was the visionary architect, yes, but every great architect needs a steel pillar to hold the structure up when the storm hits. Today, I want to talk to you about that very pillar, Nawab Vikarul Mulk. Born Mushtaq Hussain Zubairi, he was a man Sir Syed famously described as a true diamond among men. He didn't join the Aligarh movement for fame or status. In fact, he voluntarily gave up a highly distinguished wealthy administrative position in the princely state of Hyderabad simply to serve a struggling young college in Aligarh. He chose sacrifice over comfort. But this ultimate trial began in 1898. Sir Syed Ahmad Khan has just passed away. The community was in deep mourning, but worse, the Mohammedan Anglo-Oriental College was facing an existential crisis. A massive financial embezzlement scandal had just been uncovered, draining the institution's funds. Academic discipline was collapsing, and the public was losing faith. The dream of Aligarh was on the verge of bankruptcy. This is where Vikarul Mulk shows an iron character. He stepped in the storm as the honorary secretary. He didn't just give a grand speeches. He rolled up his sleeves and he personally audited every single financial ledger, cut down unnecessary expenses, and restored absolute transparency. He proved to the subcontinent a vital lesson, that is, a revolution cannot be built on passion. It must be anchored in unshakable integrity. But his greatest legacy was fierce, unyielding defiance. At the turn of 20th century, the British colonial sought to tighten up its grip on Aligarh, attempting to use the European staff members to control the mindset of the students. Where the others might have bowed the empire, Vikarul Mulk stood like an immovable rock. He famously confronted the European principle, establishing a historic precedent that the internal administration and the soul of Aligarh belonged to its people and not to the colonial masters. He looked at the British authorities and declared that we must be the masters of our own house. In doing so, he thought the youth of Aligarh something far more valuable than a degree. He taught them self-respect. Furthermore, Vikarul Mulk was a master of cultural balance. He recognized that modern and Western science could give a student a career, but cultural roots give them a conscience. He ensured that Aligarh remained a residential heaven where a young student could master modern physics, mathematics in the morning, yet fiercely practice their moral, traditional, and linguistic values in the evening. He didn't want to create pale imitations of the West. Rather, he created the quintessential Aligharian global competitive yet deeply locally rooted. Finally, he looked beyond the campus boundary walls. He understood that an educated community without a structural political voice is a silent community. And by playing a foundational presiding role in the historic 1906 meeting in Dhaka that established the All India Muslim League, he directly transformed Aligarh from a local college into a political and intellectual engine on the entire subcontinent's future. In his final years, aging, sick, and physically exhausted, Vikarul Mulk was still writing letters, raising funds, and drafting structural blueprints for one singular obsession to see MAO College granted full independent university status. He passed away before the official 1920 university charter was signed, but make no mistake, every brick, every archway, and every free-thinking mind that steps out of the Aligarh Muslim University today carries his DNA. Sir Syed Ahmad Khan gave us the beautiful vision, but it was the iron will of Nawab Vikramaditya that gave that vision the strength to survive, to conquer, and to live forever. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mr. Shranas, for this presentation on the topic of the companion of Mr. Bakar Mul. Our third presenter is Ms. Parisa Fayaz, a 12th class student of Aligarh Muslim University, who will share insights on the life and contribution of Mohsinul Mulk, one of the closest and most dedicated companions of Sir Syed Ahmad Khan. Ms. Parisa Fayaz.
Assalamu alaikum everyone. Am I audible to everyone?
Sure.
Sir, I'm Parisa Fayaz. I'm from Kashmir. I study in class 12th at AMU Girls School. And today my topic is Mohsin al-Mulk, the one of the best companion of Sir Syed Ahmad Khan. Sir, if Sir Syed led the way, Mohsin al-Mulk was the only companion who made it stay. Meanwhile, Sir Syed dreamed of the change. Mohsin al-Mulk helped that dream into reality. Mohsin al-Mulk was the closest associates of the Sir Syed Ahmad Khan and played a key figure in the Aligarh movement. His loyalty, leadership, and contentment played a vital role in continuing the Sir Syed's vision. He fearlessly defended the interests of Indian Muslims during the period of the major political change. Picture a society totally trapped in ignorance and violence. One man was helped only and only by Mohsin al-Mulk, who trapped away the students who were in the darkness. He pulled out them of the darkness and put the brighter future of them. Mohsin al-Mulk was an important Muslim leader in British India. His original name was Sayyid Mehdi Ali. He worked for the educational and social figure of Muslims. His contributions was he promoted modern education and created social and educational reforms, worked for the welfare of the Muslim community. His promotion of Urdu, strong supporter of the Urdu language, defended the use of Urdu in education and administration. His legacy, strengthened the Aligarh movement and inspired future Muslim leaders, remembered as a great educationist. At last, I want to say that he supported Aligarh movement, helped spread of the modern education among Muslims. He contributed to modern education and created social and educational reforms, worked for the welfare of the Muslim community, received a good education, worked in the government service before joining social reform activities. He was the closest associate of Sir Syed Ahmad Khan. Thanks.
Thank you, Ms. Parisha Fayaz, for this presentation. And finally, we have Mr. Umar Harish, an AMU student who will present on the literary giant and reformist poet Altaf Hussain Hali, whose words and vision became the voice of the Aligarh movement. We warmly welcome all our presenters and their efforts in keeping alive the history, values, and intellectual spirit of the Aligarh movement. Mr. Umar Harish.
Assalamu alaikum everyone. Am I audible?
Sure. Go ahead.
So my presentation is on Altaf Hussain Hadi, who was one of the very close associate of Sir Syed, and he was the one who wrote the very first biography of Sir Syed. Altaf Hussain Hadi was not only a great poet, but he was also a reformer, and through this presentation I will discuss his life, his association with Sir Syed, his major works, and his contribution to Muslim intellectual history. So the first question is, who was Hali? Hali, full name of Hali was Khaja Altaf Hussain Hali, and he was born in 1837 at Panipat. He is remembered as a poet, a critic, author, and social reformer. Hali was a direct disciple of Mirza Ghalib, and he learnt Urdu poetry from Ghalib, which helped shape his literary development. Later, he became close associate of Sir Syed after he came in contact with him in Delhi. Eventually, Ali became one of the leading literary voices of the Aligarh movement by exploring the dimensions of the mission of Sir Syed through Urdu poetry. So, the watershed moment in Hali's life, which led to a change in his attitude, was after the decline of Muslim rule in India and the revolt of 1857. After the revolt of 1857, Ali was very much disturbed and frustrated by the decline of the Muslim rule and the aftermath of the uprising, which eventually deteriorated the condition of the Muslim community in India. Just like Sir Syed, Ali was very much disturbed. However, Ali did not know the way, and he did not have a roadmap to work on the development of the community. Ali was teaching at Anglo-Arabic school in Delhi, and there he came in contact with Sir Syed. It is worth mentioning that Sir Syed was an alumnus of Anglo-Arabic school, where Hali was teaching at that time. So when Hali came in contact with Sir Syed, his views began to shape, and he was deeply inspired by the intellectual and social reformist mission of Sir Syed Ahmad Khan. This became a turning point in Hali's career, and he could finally see a practical roadmap for the Muslims of the subcontinent. Afterwards, the type of poetry which Hali wrote saw a great evolution. He stopped writing mere classic poetry and he began addressing the social, political, and intellectual crisis of the Muslim community. Sir Syed was also inspired and appreciated the poetry of Hali. He admired it, and this is why he asked Sir Syed to write something like Marsiya Andalus. Marsiya Andalus was a poetry written by an Arab poet after the fall of Spain. So Sir Syed asked Hali to write something like that on the plight of Indian Muslims and the fall of Mughal Empire. Eventually, Hali began composing a very long nazm, which came to be known as Musaddas, and it became the foundation stone of the literary dimension of the Aligarh movement, as it echoed the pain and the mission of Sir Syed. This remarkable movement was described by Sayyidan Hamid, who is a very famous author and a social worker, in the following words: "This is the place where the calm got a poet and the poet got a calm." So it also reflects that until Hali met Sir Syed, though he was frustrated, though he was disturbed, though he wanted to do something, he did not have a roadmap. He didn't know what to do. So through the association with Sir Syed, he could finally figure out the way forward. Musaddas Hali. So this was the long nazm which Hali wrote on the demand of Sir Syed. It was written in 1879. It was originally titled Maddo Jazre Islam, which literally translates into the flow and ebb of Islam. It follows a linear historical narrative engaging with the pre-Islamic era. After that, Hali writes about the prophetic period. He follows then with the rise and golden age of Islam, the caliphate, and after that he writes about the eventual downfall of the Muslims and the 19th century conditions of the Muslim community. The Musaddas of Hali aligns strongly with the views and mission of Sir Syed. Sir Syed wrote about Musaddas in a letter: "I consider this poem among those finest deeds of mine that when God asks me, 'What did you bring with you?' I will say nothing but that I got Hali to write the Musaddas." So these very words show how deeply Sir Syed was inspired by the Musaddas of Hali and how he appreciated it. T.G. Bailey, who was a Urdu scholar and professor, and he has written very foundational works on Urdu literature and Urdu history. He wrote about Musaddas that no poem has had so great an effect on the Urdu-speaking world. Similarly, A.F. Ticknall, and another Western scholar, he writes about Musaddas that it indeed participated in the increasing pull of Urdu-speaking elites towards their Arab heritage, and the poetic mention of Delhi alongside Cordoba or Baghdad coincided with their greater awareness of belonging to a wider Muslim world. Now we will talk about Hayat-e-Javed. So Hayat-e-Javed is undoubtedly the most famous work of Hali, which probably every Alig knows. It was published in 1901, and it is Hali's most important prose work and the very first biography of Sir Syed Ahmad Khan. It is also considered as the most reliable and official biography of Sir Syed. Also, it holds great importance in Urdu literature as it is one of the greatest biographies ever written in Urdu. The book is divided into two parts. The first part focuses on the biographical account of Sir Syed, tracing his life from birth to death. It tells us about the upbringing of Sir Syed, his details of his family, his lineage, his educational background, and all those things. The second part provides an analytical review of his social, political, and literary contributions. So basically, the second part deals with the Aligarh movement and the mission of Sir Syed, which was to uplift the Muslim community. David Lelibalt who is a great scholar, and he has also written a book on Aligarh movement, which was also translated in Urdu by Abdul Sabur Kidwai. He commented on Hayat-e-Javed that it is the most important single book that has been written on the Aligarh movement. This is a poem which Hali wrote for Sir Syed, though he has written a lot of poems on Sir Syed and Aligarh movement, as he was one of the very core figure of Aligarh movement. However, I have attached this poem for reference. I am reading out few of the verses. इस दौरे आखिरी में जब यूं बिगड़ चले तुम, एक हाशमी तुम्हारा मुसला खड़ा किया है, So basically, in this verse, Hali is trying to highlight the lineage of Sir Syed, that he belongs to the family of the Prophet, peace be upon him. So he highlights the lineage of Sir Syed because it holds very much importance in the Muslim society at that time and even now. सर सबसे चाहता है जो कौम को जहां में फतवों से कौम की गो काफिर ठहर चुका है. Hali highlights how Sir Syed was opposed by the community and his mission was opposed, and eventually he was even called kafir, but still Sir Syed remained dedicated to his mission. वक्त अपना काम अपना जान अपनी माल अपना यारों पे जिसने सब कुछ कुर्बान कर दिया है. Hali also says that Sir Syed used his own wealth, his own time. He sacrificed his life for the development of this community. वार इस पे कौम के हैं, वो कौम की सपर है, कौम उससे बदगुमा है, वो कौम पर फिदा है. So this is the irony that the community basically at that time was very much against the Aligarh movement, against Sir Syed, and the ordinary Muslims were not willing to acknowledge the contribution of Sir Syed, but still Sir Syed remained dedicated and he didn't waver in his mission. He contributed to the community in every way he could. Furthermore, Hali says, दिरहम से और कलम से दम से कदम से अपने जो कुछ किया है उसने वो किससे हो सका है. हमदर्द कौम ऐसा हमने सुना न देखा, ये दर्द उसको जद की मीरास में मिला है. तालीम की तुम्हारी बुनियाद उसने डाली, मुल्कों में जिसका चर्चा हर सिमत हो रहा है. बाद अस्करून उदा किसने किया बताओ, सैयद ने काम आकर जो कौम ने किया है. So Hali says that what Sir Syed did was never ever did by anyone, and he has done a great, remarkable job for the community, and we must acknowledge him. This is a Persian verse of Allama Iqbal on Hali and Sir Syed, which highlights the relationship between Hali and Sir Syed. Allama Iqbal recognized the unique partnership between Sir Syed and Hali. In these Persian verses, he compares Hali to a desert tulip that was revived by Sir Syed. According to Iqbal, Sir Syed gave Hali new life and purpose, while Hali, through his poetry, expressed the pain and aspirations of the Muslim community. The verses symbolize the intellectual and emotional bond between the two figures. These are some of the other important works of Altaf Hussain Hali. Muqaddama Sher-o Shairi. This is a book on the Urdu poetry, and it advocates that poetry should not be merely written for entertainment, and we should depart from the romantic poetry, which was very much famous during that time. So Hali said that we should depart from this, and poetry should serve a purpose. It should serve intellectual and social purpose. It should come as a reform. Similarly, Hali also wrote a biography of Ghalib, since Hali was a direct disciple of Ghalib. He had learned poetry from Ghalib. So he also wrote the very first biography of Mirza Ghalib, which is called Yadgar Ghalib. Hali also wrote a biography on Sadi, who was a Persian poet, and it is also coincidentally the very first biography written on Sadi. Similarly, another poetic compilation of Hali is Hubbe-Watan. So these are some of the important works of Altaf Hussain Hali, apart from Musaddas and Hayat-e-Javed. Here is a list of some of the important works written on Hali. I have attached it so that those who want to know more about Hali and who want to read about him can refer to these works. Hali Muhibbe-Watan by Dr. Zakir Hussain. It is worth mentioning that Dr. Zakir Hussain was a very towering personality, and he obviously needs no introduction. However, I want to mention that Zakir Hussain was so much engaged in political and social activities that he did not get enough time to did not get enough time to write. So the writings of Zakir Hussain, which we have with us, is very much limited. However, still, Dr. Zakir Hussain chose to write on Hali, and he wrote a book called Hali Muhib Watan. So this itself highlights the importance of Hali in the Aligarh movement. Hali बहैसियत शायर by Dr. Sir Syed Ali. हाल ही का सियासी शऊर by Moin Hassan Jaspi. We often hear about Jaspi in Aligarh, that Jaspi was the alumnus of Aligarh and he was a great poet. So a poet writing a biography on another poet or a book on another poet, it is a very great accomplishment. Yet another poet, Hari Chand Akhtar, who is also a very well-known personality in Urdu poetry, he also wrote a book on Hali in the title Hali Panipati. So in conclusion, I would like to say that Altaf Hussain Hali was much more than a poet. He was a reformer, critic, biographer, and one of the strongest literary voices of the Aligarh movement. Through works such as Musaddas-e-Hali and Hayat-e-Javed, he played a major role in shaping modern Muslim thought in South Asia. So I would like to encourage every Alik here to read much more about him, to try to read about different personalities related to the Aligarh movement, those who were associated with Sir Syed and who participated in the shaping of the Aligarh. Thank you.
Thank you, Umar Harish, for this insightful presentation on Altaf Hussain Hali. I extend my sincere gratitude to all four presenters for their excellent presentation on the companions of Sir Syed Ahmad Khan. Your research, preparation, and thoughtful insights have greatly enhanced our understanding of the Aligarh movement. Thank you for your valuable contributions. Now I'd like to introduce our eminent speaker. It is a matter of immense privilege and honor to welcome today's eminent speaker, a personality who beautifully represents the spirit of academic excellence, professional achievement, and unwavering dedication to the Aligarh movement. Please join me in welcoming Mr. Afzal Usmani Sahib, the President of the Federation of Aligarh Muslim University Alumni Association, North America. Mr. Usmani Sahib is proudly a distinguished alumnus of Aligarh Muslim University. His roots run deep within the Chaman-e-Sayyid, where he completed his
Thank you. I
Bachelor's of
think
Science.
यानी जरा रुक जाए, कोई बात नहीं है, तो लंबा करने की जरूरत नहीं है. And I saw your introduction. Thank you. So probably we are running out of time also. So I'm sorry to interrupt you. I think let's begin the talk. That will be important. And that would, thank you.
Thanks.
Sorry to interrupt, Sheth, because I see the clock and people are definitely, they have their schedules. So first of all, I'd like to thank the Aligarh Renaissance group to invite me to talk about a topic which is very dear to me, and for maybe for some people's surprise or some people's knowledge, that I've been writing on this topic for more than 15 years. And I started writing about sometime in 2006, like 20 years. Sorry, I didn't even realize it, 20 years, when I started my first blog known as Karwane Aligarh, where the objective of that blog was to highlight the achievements, contributions of the individuals, those who not only with Sir Syed, I started with Sir Syed, but of course, all of his companions, whether famous or non-famous or big or small. First of all, there's no small, but some people have known names, some people are unknown to majority of the Aligarh fraternity. So that was the objective, and good to see that Aligarh Renaissance Group started the similar series. And I have a long list of names, or basically the companions of Sir Syed who played a vital role in one or the other way to establish, to nurture Aligarh movement, starting not only from 1898 or even till date. So, but I will take, as some of the speakers talked about, Mohsinul Mulk, Waqarul Mulk, Altaf Hussain Hali, Raja Jai Kishan Das. and I was sharing the link in the chat box. I wrote about them, as I said, like 19 years ago. But some of the names are still very unknown in the fraternity, which I would like to emphasize and talk. And first and foremost, the very important name which we don't talk is Sayyid Mahmud, the youngest son of Sir Syed Ahmad Khan. Sir Syed has two sons. One was Sayyid Hamid, who was the older son, and another was Sayyid Mahmud. And Sayyid Mahmud was an extraordinary individual, as a not only as an individual person, but as a character, as a strong personality. Sayyid Hamid was also accomplished, but compared to Sayyid Mahmud, of course, Sayyid Hamid did not got that much of fame. For the sake of record, Sayyid Mahmud, it was Sayyid Mahmud who got the scholarship for UK or England, and Sir Syed went along with him with the same scholarship money to basically study about England and education architecture. So it was Sayyid Mahmud who basically paved the way for Sir Syed's trip to UK. He was, for the sake of record, he was the youngest justice of Allahabad High Court, which is the oldest court of India. And at the age of 32, he became the justice of Allahabad High Court. And that's when he got a house there. And that house was later bought by Raja Jaikishan Das. And later, Raja Jaikishan Das sold that house to Motilal Nehru. And now the house is known as Anand Bhavan, which is a museum of Nehru family. So that house was originally belonged to Sayyid Mahmud, the youngest son of Sir Syed. And as I said, most of the time when we talk about the companions, we don't talk about so many names. We just talk about, I'm not saying that I'm not demeaning Sayyid Mosul Mulk or Wakalmu, they played a very vital key role, but there are many names which were forgotten. If you look around in the AMU campus, and to my surprise, when I started writing about these topics, and I started looking around AMU campus to find the names of these people, they were either not there or they were either hidden. For example, Sayyid Mahmud, when I started looking around Sayyid Mahmud's name in and around campus, I couldn't find. Then luckily I talked to Dr. Abdullah Sahab, who's based in Washington, DC. And I used to be in Austin, Texas at that time. So Abdullah Bhai told me that the SS Hall, which is the hostel SM East, SM West, they are Sayyid Mahmud hostel. Sayyid Mahmud East, Sayyid Mahmud West. But somehow the AMU administration over the years, they used to write SM East, SM West, and it became popular as SM East, SM West. And I have the old pictures also where the AMU authorities signed boards for saying SM East, SM West. But very recently, during my last visit to Aligarh, I found out that the full name is written there, Sayyid Mahmud Hostel, Sayyid Mahmud East, Sayyid Mahmud West, which is a part of SS Hall North. And historically, when this building were constructed, it was not named as SS Hall. It was named as Sayyid Mahmud Court. The north part was known as Sayyid Mahmud Court, and the south part was known as Sir Syed Court. So later on, of course, we became Sir Syed Hall, SS Hall. Then in late 79, in early 80s, during Sayyid Hamid Saab's vice chancellorship, he splitted the hall into two halls known as Sir Syed South and Sir Syed North. And personally, I've been trying with the MU authorities for more than 10 years to rename the Sir Syed North as a Sayyid Mahmud Hall. And the issue was discussed in the Executive Council meetings, and it was approved by the Executive Council, but somehow didn't go through to the final steps. But anyway, Sayyid Mahmud played a very, very key role. And behind the scene, Sir Syed was a spiritual figurehead. Sir Syed was he was a public face of the movement. But behind the scenes, Sayyid Mahmud played a very vital role, especially structuring the MAO College, what it will look like, what kind of courses we need to start, what will be the staff. And he handpicked almost entire staff, especially the British staff. It was picked by Sayyid Mahmud. So either Theodore Beck, Theodore Morrison, Archibald, they were all brought to Aligarh by Sayyid Mahmud. And in fact, that was the reason during the last phase of Sir Syed's life, when Sir Syed was, of course, having health issues and all that, British officers were like a little bit worried that if Sir Syed is gone, probably our future will be in difficult time, because there was basically some opposition to the British staff also. So they tried, and they, of course, convinced Sir Syed to appoint or elect Sayyid Mahmud as a lifetime joint secretary of the MAO College Board of Trustees. And it happened, Sayyid Mahmud became the lifetime joint secretary of the MAO College Board of Trustees. And when Sir Syed died, Sayyid Mahmud, of course, took over as a secretary by default because it was as per the bylaws of the Board of Trustees. But after a couple of months, of course, there was a resentment, there was an opposition of Sayyid Mahmud, and people asked him to resign. And finally, Mohsin al-Mulk was able to convince him to resign. So Sayyid Mahmud resigned, of course, got frustrated and left Aligarh and went to Sitapur, and there he died at the very early age of 53. So he played, as I said, like he played very critical role, and somehow we miss him from the campus. So I will encourage the listeners and Aligarh fraternity to please read about him, read his contribution. He was one of the expert of Muslim law, of basically judiciary. At that time, he was very, of course, articulative and very vocal speaker. And in fact, when some British officers or British judiciary people commented that you are not a white person and you are in such a high position, and he was very blunt in that. And in fact, for that reason, he resigned from the judiciary, that I'm here because of my talent, not because of my skin color. So anyway, so that is one name I will encourage people to read about Sayyid Mahmud and his role. And very recently, Nasir, the son of former Vice Chancellor Tariq Mansoor Saab, and one of his colleague, they wrote a book on Sayyid Mahmud. And of course, if you go to my blog, I shared the link in the chat box. You can find a small piece on Sayyid Mahmud and his contribution. Another missing name from the list is Maulvi Samiullah. A lot of people, you will not find any building named after Maulvi Samiullah. You will not find any road named after Maulvi Samiullah. I have not come across any. If I miss, please let me know. So Maulvi Samiullah was, in my humble opinion, in the beginning, he was the lieutenant of Sir Syed. So when Sir Syed started anything, Maulvi Samiullah wholeheartedly supported. And in fact, his son, Hamidullah, became the first student of Madrasatul Uloom and MAO College. And later on, of course, he graduated and he became the Chief Justice of Hyderabad High Court. And in fact, the recent one of the name you may be knowing, the former Vice Chancellor of Jamia Millia, Najib Jung, he is the grandson of Hamidullah Sahab, Hamidullah Beg, and of course the Jung title came from Nizam of Hyderabad, and of course the family started using surname Jung. So now Maulvi Samiullah played a very key role, but in the last stage of his life, he got, of course, developed some kind of a differences with Sir Syed, and to the best of my research, it was due to Sayyid Mahmud. So he left Aligarh, and in fact he went to Allahabad and established college and is a Muslim boys hostel there. So if anyone from Allahabad, you heard about Muslim hostel, Muslim boys hostel, it was established by Maulvi Samiullah. And for the first time, when during Sir Syed's life, when people wanted to put Sir Syed's name on the gate of course, the building at that time, the college building, and Sir Syed said, no, don't put my name. And people insisted that. And he said, only condition I will allow to put my name on the building if you add two more names with that. And one name was Maulvi Samiullah, and another name was Haji Ismail Khan of Datawali. Datawali is a very small princely state near Aligarh, and his ruler, Nawab Ismail Khan. There's another Ismail Khan, will come later, but this Nawab Ismail Khan of Datawali was also very ardent, strong supporter of Sir Syed, and at every stage, to the best of his ability, he supported Sir Syed. And in fact, in one of the presentation, one of the very famous picture of Sir Syed is with Ismail Khan Datawali. He's standing behind Sir Syed Ahmad Khan. And he was very young at that time, in early 30s. So, of course, that name also needs recognition, Haji Ismail Khan of Datawali. So I will encourage people, as I said, I'm not going to the detail of their life and contribution. I'm just throwing the names so that people should start looking their names, finding out and read about them. Haji Ismail Khan of Datawali also played very important role. And as I said, like at every stage, he supported Sir Syed financially, morally, and administratively. Another name, if you have lived in Aligarh, of course, majority of you have lived there. So if you go to the SS Hall North, the moment you enter from the SS Hall North, you will hear about Baba Ishaq. So who was Ishaq? It was Nawab Ishaq Khan. He was the fourth secretary. He became secretary of MAO College Board of Trustees after Waqar al-Mulk, and he played again a very important role, and financially, administratively, Nawab Isa Khan did a lot of fantastic work, and he also groomed another young man, Nawab Muhammad Ali Khan. So, of course, whose leadership played a transition from MAO College to university, and I will come to that topic also. As I said, it's a very huge topic, and I don't think I will do it justice in half an hour or 45 minutes or whatever time is left. But I'm going to throw the names, and I will encourage the organizers to arrange these kind of lecture in a series so that we can go each character one at a time, or maybe two characters at a time to talk at length. So Nawab Isa Khan is also a very important player in the Aligarh movement. He was one of the pillar, and of course he was a son of Nawab Mirza Shefta. जिन लोगों ने गालिब को पढ़ा होगा, गालिब के मिर्जा शेफ्ता जो थे वो नवाब इसा खान के वालिद साहब थे. So, and as I said, another name in that list is Allama Shibli Nomani, and of course people consider him as an academician or as a professor, as intellectual, but to the best of my knowledge and whatever I have studied, he was one of the strongest supporter of Aligarh movement. And there's a very famous conspiracy theory that even I heard that theory while growing up, that Shibli developed differences with Sir Syed and left Aligarh and went to Azamgarh, back to his hometown, and established Shibli College, which is absolutely rubbish and false. And I can give you a dateline which you can check yourself. It was 1882 when Shibli came to Aligarh. And of course, for first year, he did not get a job. And second year, when he came to meet Sir Syed offered him a job, and he joined the job. And in first winter vacation, when he went back to Azamgarh, he established the school, which later became Shibli College. So Shibli was a very strong supporter of Sir Syed, and Shibli himself wrote that if I have not come to Aligarh, I should have been just a simple Maulvi Shibli. I will never become Shibli Nomani, or I'll never become Allama Shibli, whatever he was. And on Sir Syed's basically encouragement, he wrote a series of books known as the Heroes of Islam, and he started with that with Khalifa Mamun Rashid Al-Mamun. And in the same series, later he wrote the book Al-Faruq, which is the life of Hazrat Umar Farooq Razillahu Ta'ala anhu, and it's one of the most famous book on Umar Farooq Razillahu Ta'ala anhu. In Urdu, you will not find any book better than Al-Faruq by Shibli. And of course, even the Arab historians, now they started translating that book into Arabic. And I've seen copies of those books in Arabic also. So only one of the thing, funny incident I will share with you, that when Shibli wrote that book, and when Sir Syed read that book, one of Sir Syed's another supporter wrote another book on Umar Farooq just 1 year before this book. So Sir Syed wrote a letter to him that, hey, please withdraw your book from the market, because that book has no value when you read the book of Shibli. So Sir Syed became, of course, he was a big fan of Shibli, and he admired Shibli. So, and they have a very strong bonding. And let me tell you one more thing, which is very important to understand, that they were not contemporaries. Sir Shibli was a kind of a disciple of Sir Syed, and they have an age difference of 40 years. Sir Syed was born in 1817. Shibli was born in 1857. So Shibli was 40 years younger to Sir Syed. So people think that they are contemporary, they are of the same age. And of course, I see some comments. I'll come to that also. And when we're talking about Shibli, that name should be there. So anyway, so Shibli, not only writing the books, Shibli used to travel with Sir Syed to campaign. And then when Sir Syed died, even still, he resigned from AMU. He went to, of course, Lucknow and Hyderabad, but he was not dissociated himself from Aligarh movement. He used to come to Aligarh very often in the meeting of Muslim Educational Conference. He used to come in other events, like, for example, when MAO College was giving a farewell to Sir Thomas Walker Arnold, who was a professor of philosophy and moved to Lahore, where he basically where Allama Iqbal became his student. So when Walker Arnold was leaving India, so MAO College was giving a farewell to him, and they asked Shibli to write his Sapasnama, which is a farewell speech or farewell plaque. So it was Shibli who wrote that, even though Shibli was not in Aligarh, but it doesn't mean that he dissociated himself from Aligarh. So that's a very false assumption and misnomer that Shibli and Sir Syed got departed from each other. No, from end of the, of course, they had differences, ideological differences, religion-wise, there was a difference, but that was the beauty of Sir Syed, to hold all these different people of different mindset, different stature, different talent together. So Syed was a glue. So this was Shibli. So Shibli is definitely a big personality, and to the best of my knowledge and my research, he was among the first staff member who officially contributed to the college fund from his salary. And in fact, all the books he published from MAO College, the series Heroes of Islam, he never took a single copy of those books for himself, and whatever copies he needed, he officially buy that book from the university and then gift it to his friends. So even Sir Syed, in one of his letters, he commented that Shibli should not do that, and in a funny way he said, ये बेवकूफ़ आदमी है, ये तो अपने जो 10 कॉपियाँ 5 कॉपियाँ कॉम्प्लीमेंट्री होती वो भी नहीं लेते हैं और एक एक कॉपी खरीद कर लेते हैं. So it was a big gesture from Shibli that even though he was a paid staff member and he used to donate from his salary and also never took a penny from the what you call revenues of the books, and he gave all the books were donated to MAO College. So that was another character. I said Shibli should be well read and should be basically talked about in Aligarh movement. Another character was Nawab Muhammad Ali Khan, and who was the son-in-law of Sir Syed's oldest son, Syed Hamid. And Sir Syed personally groomed him, a very young man, and he served as a personal secretary of Sir Syed also. And when Nawab Ishaq Khan died in 1817, yeah, I see your name of Chirag Ali. So of course, as I said, it's a big list, so I will not be able to cover everything in one talk, but I'm just coming one at a time. So Nawab Muhammad Ali Khan was the last secretary of MAO College Board of Trustees, because it was during his leadership, his secretaryship, when MAO College became the Muslim University. And of course, when the college became Muslim University, College Management Board of Trustees body got dissolved, and Muhammad Ali Khan became the first honorary treasurer of Aligarh Muslim University. So on my blog, you'll find a brief description of his life, contribution also. So he was also a very good, very great player. And as I said, Sir Syed was a central figure of Aligarh movement. In Arabic, the word they use is amud. He was a central figure of the tent, and all these pillars were like they have their role, and without them, the Aligarh movement tent cannot be basically will be established. So Nawab Muhammad Ali Khan was another character, so I will encourage people to definitely read about him and get to know him. And as I said, he was part of the Sir Syed's family, but he played a very vital role. And after that, there's another name which is not very known in AMU campus, is Deputy Nazir Ahmad. He was also one of the very ardent supporter of Sir Syed that did so many things, especially the library science. And he served as a librarian also in the early MAO College and did a lot of things. So Deputy Nazir Ahmad is a very big literary giant, and people know him for his literary contributions and his books and his development of curriculum, especially for the girls' education. And a funny thing is that while teaching his own daughters, he realized that the curriculum available in the system is not good enough to balance the modern and the religious education. So he started writing notes for his own daughters, and that became a very famous book. And as I said, if you go to my blog, you can find all the names of the books. So people should read about Deputy Nazir Ahmad also. And another name, of course, I said, I don't know how much time I have. It's already 11:13. I don't want to take more than 15 minutes, so I will conclude by 11:30. And as I said, the young people made a fantastic presentation, and I will encourage youngsters to please come forward and make this kind of presentation and upload. Of course, one of the presentation on Waqar al-Mulk has some wrong pictures into that, which we can come later on. Please talk to me and I will correct that, what pictures are wrong. Another name in that list is, of course, Papa Mia. I don't know, most of you, Sheikh Abdullah Papa Mia, the college, women's college, or popularly known as Abdullah College. He is one of the great pillar of Aligarh movement, in my humble opinion. For the women's education, he received Padam Bhushan also in late 50s and early 60s. And during Sir Syed's time, he was a 20-year-old, 25-year-old young man. So he personally, of course, he was groomed by Sir Syed, and he was very close to he came to Aligarh as a student, and of course, he settled down there and he started law practice in Aligarh. And of course, he was from the very beginning, he was associated with the Aligarh movement, and his priority was women's education. So he started trying even during Muslim Mulk's tenure. And of course, they were having a hard time for the men education. So of course, nobody was paying attention to the women's education, but it was Papa Mia Sheikh Abdullah basically paid attention and established the first school in 1906 in Usman Pada or Tantan Pada area. Later on, of course, the school got shifted to the close to the campus. And in late 30s, during Sir Masood's time, tenure as a vice chancellor, that college was merged into the Muslim University. It was independent college before that. And I have written a detailed article on the establishment of struggle for women's education and establishment of women's college, I think more than 15 years ago, about this establishment of this college and the contribution of Papa Mia. So please look on the Google, you'll find that article, and probably I have on my blog also. Somehow my website, aligarhmovement.com, is down for last 2 years. I'm not a technical expert of the website development. I learned some basic things and I developed that website, but 2 years ago, something happened. That website is gone and I was unable to resurrect that. I have the backup, but I will request the young volunteers, if you have expertise, please reach out to me. We can work together and establish that website. So Papa Mia played a very key role. And of course, he got a lot of support from Begum Sultan Jahan, who was the founding chancellor of Aligarh Muslim University from 1920 to 30. And before that, she used to come to the All India Muslim Educational Conference. Again, this is another body which I will briefly talk about, and I will encourage you to do something. So Papa Mia, and of course Begum Atiya Faizi contributed for that school. Begum Sultan Jahan contributed for that school. She gave a lot of money. And of course, when you read that article, you'll find about that who played what kind of a role to establishment of the women's college. So of course, Papa Mia should also be duly recognized in the Aligarh movement. It's not, even though it's a women's education, but he is one of the pioneer and a strongest and staunch supporter of Sir Syed from the very beginning. And he wrote a lot of articles on Sir Syed's life also. And I think you talk about VM Waqal Mulk and other people, and I talked about that. There was another person who is totally missed in AMU campus, is Sir Sultan Shah Aga Khan. So before Sultan Shah Aga Khan, let me just briefly introduce what I saw some of the pictures of Nawab Sir Ziauddin Waqal Mulk. They went to see Raja Mahmudabad, who was the founding vice chancellor of Aligarh Muslim University in 1920. But before that, let's talk about little bit about the Muslim Educational Conference, which was started by Sir Syed Ahmad Khan in 1886. When Indian National Congress was established in Calcutta in 1885, Sir Syed immediately opposed Indian National Congress, and people will think, why Sir Syed opposed Indian National Congress? And Sir Syed has a philosophy. It was not like a kind of a personal. He has a philosophy, because the demands of Indian National Congress in 1885 was, of course, like every people should appear in the competitive exams. Everybody has the same thing, and it looks very normal. But Sir Syed knew the condition of Muslim masses, that we are not in a position. Muslims of Indian subcontinent were not, of course, at that time it was India. So Muslims of India were not in a position to compete in open area, because after 1857 they were crushed and a lot of things were in bad shape. So he wanted basically a reservation for Muslims, so that we can have a little bit advantage, or we can easily compete. But anyway, so that was a difference. And to counter that difference, Sir Syed started Muslim. First, he gave the name Muslim Educational Congress. It was basically Mohammedan Educational Congress. But later on, he changed that name to Muslim Educational Conference, and it was started from Aligarh in 1886. And then that same organization, basically after Sir Syed's death, continued. After Sir Syed died, Muslim Mulk became the secretary, then Waqar Mulk, then Sahibzada Aftab Ahmad Khan, and so on and so forth. So it has a rich history. So people should read about Muslim Educational Conference. And to majority of the people here, and if they will be listening on the YouTube, you will be surprised to know that even by the statutes of AMU, Muslim Educational Conference is a recognized body, and every year they send 5 court members to the AMU court. And sorry to say, maybe some of the people will not like my comment, that I've been trying for more than 25 years to revive this organization, and I've been requesting the office bearers of that organization to make it public, to go to public, reach out to the masses, so that the organization can be revived. And the Sultan Jahan building next to AMU campus, next to Shamshad Market, is the headquarter of that organization, and this belongs to the Muslim Educational Conference, and that is duly recognized by the AMU charter. Of course, AMU vice chancellor has no control over that, but it's an independent body recognized by the statutes of AMU. And they sent 5 members, and they have, I'm sorry to say, maybe some of the people, as I said, the office bearers may not like it, but it's a nexus. And every 3 years they send court members without doing anything. And in the last 30 years, they have not even held an annual the Muslim Educational Conference annual session also. So I will encourage the youth to basically look what educational conference is, what are their contributions, and I have on my blog, you'll find Muslim Educational Conference, the detail of that, what they have done in the past. And it was the Muslim Educational Conference who campaigned to convert MAO College into Muslim University. And to your surprise, that's the name I was talking about, Sir Shah Sulaiman, no, sorry, Sir Sultan Shah Aga Khan. He was the chairman of the fundraising committee appointed by the Educational Conference. And it was Sultan Shah Aga Khan who basically campaigned across India. He was the leader of the Aga Khani Muslims, so one sect of the Shia Islam. And of course, he has a lot of following. And I read the letters and books where he personally, he was going to any town, and of course, his community people wanted to host him, honor him. And of course, you know that they spend a lot of money. So he requested them, please do not host a fancy dinner for me. Whatever the money you are planning to invest on that dinner, contribute that money to MAO College fund, because government put a restriction that we will only convert MAO College to Muslim University if you have such and such endowment fund. That means you have a backup money, and then only we'll convert that college to fund. And of course, Sultan Shah Aga Khan gave 1 lakh rupees at that time. Begum Sultan Jahan gave 1 lakh rupees. Raja Mahmudabad gave 1 lakh rupees. And the biggest donor of that time was Nizam of Hyderabad, who gave 5 lakh rupees at that time. So of course, Sultan Shah Aga Khan played a very key role. And when the college got converted to Muslim University, he became the founding pro-chancellor of, and he served as a pro-chancellor for many years. But later on, of course, some differences with the administration arises, and he, I think in early 30s, he departed himself from Aligarh. He was alive, but he was not very actively involved. Anyway, that's another part of the thing. But he played a very key role to convert the MAO College to Muslim University. So I will, as I said, I will encourage youngsters to please read about Aga Khan. Of course, some people, even when I wrote that piece, people commented that he is this and that, blah. I said, no, my concern or my area of subject, my subject is his contribution to Aligarh movement. I don't care about his personal belief. I don't care about his personal practices. That is a separate aspect. So I don't want to talk about that. So please, whatever his contributions are, we need to recognize that. And I know Aligarh Muslim University has recognized, and there's a hostel in Sulaiman Hall known as Aga Khan Hostel. So of course, he played a very key role, Sultan Shah Aga Khan. As I said, coming back to the organizations also of the Aligarh movement, it is not only the individuals, it is the organizations who also played a very key role for the flourishing or nurturing of the Aligarh movement, and of course, conversion of MAO College to Muslim University and later on. And two of them are very prominent, and they are very dormant this time. And as I said, one of them is Muslim Educational Conference, and another is Duty Society. And Afzada Aftab Ahmad Khan was one of the founder, and as I like, Afzada Aftab Ahmad Khan is another big character of the movement, and we will definitely should talk about some time. But as I said, time is running out, so I will not talk Aftab Ahmad Khan. But let me focus on these two organizations, Duty Society and Muslim Educational Conference. They played a very key role, and to your surprise, the Aftab Hostel was built by the Duty Society's fund. Duty Society did a fundraising and built Aftab Hostel. So if you go to AMU campus, Aftab Hostel was built by Duty Society. Sorry, another third organization I forgot was AMU Old Boys Association. So as per the charter of AMU, AMU Old Boys Association is also recognized. And of course, we read in the social media so much fuss about the Old Boys Association, but it is a recognized body. Of course, right now, the people at the helm of the affairs, it's a big mess there. And again, as I said, my comments will not be liked by many, those who are involved there, but Old Boys Association should also be looked into depth and see basically how right kind of people should come forward. So as I said, Muslim Educational Conference, Duty Society and Old Boys Association, they played a very important role in the establishment and in the nurturing of the MAO College to Muslim University. And of course, they were playing for a long time, but in the recent time, these three organizations basically became either dormant, or some of them are controlled by few individuals. And of course, they will claim that they are doing a lot of things, but I have done a lot of research on that. And I'm very sorry to say that these three organizations are almost dormant, controlled by few individuals or few families, which is really bad for the sake of organization. As I said, Muslim Educational Conference used to do annual session starting from Rangoon, Burma. They organize annual session in Rangoon, Burma. They organized in Chennai, they organized in Lahore, they organized in Peshawar, they organized in vast geographical area of India at that time. So they organized their annual session, they campaigned for that, they built a mass movement, mass momentum. People contributed money from different segment of India at that time. And the promise they gave to the community at large that Aligarh will be the center, Aligarh will be the model, and the same model will be replicated across India. So of course, it did not happen. And when AMU, MAO College became university, block government came into picture, so many things happened. But this was the promise made to different parts of the country, different part of the Indian subcontinent at that time, that in majority of the Muslim dominated area, we will have the center of AMU, will have the, not AIM, like similar kind of institutions. So that's another, as I said, that's another big subject to talk about. But this was the promise educational conference made. Similarly, Old Boys Association, Maulana Muhammad Ali Jawhar, Maulana Shaukat Ali, and you name Hasrat Mohani, all these big names involved in the Aligarh movement, they were part of the Old Boys Association. Similarly, Sahibzada Aftab Ahmad Khan, later on, so many other people were involved in the Duty Society. So they have it has its own objectives, it has its own basically charter, and they played a very role. It was a very important role to nurture and help Aligarh movement. So I will encourage people to please dig into that and talk to the concerned people. And I will encourage the youngsters. As I said, one of the point was to basically emphasize youngster what role they can be played. So I will encourage you to first do your own research about these individuals, about these organizations, and try to join that organization and try to bring change. If you've been saying from outside, and I've been trying that, even though the only problem with me is that I'm living in the United States, so I cannot do so many things. But if some people are living in and around Aligarh, or if they're visiting Aligarh regularly, please talk to the people. And if you want their names and contact numbers, I can share with you. Please reach out to me. Talk to them, try to bring positive change in those organizations. They have become dormant, or few individuals are controlling, which is really bad. So please talk to them. So visit Sultan Jahan Manzil, visit Duty Society's office, visit Old Boys, and ask questions. And as I said, like, it's not only the current, whatever people say, hey, MU Vice Chancellor, this and that, blah, blah. I don't want to talk on that subject. It is not only the MU Vice Chancellor who's playing a role. So these are side organizations, they have their key roles, and they are dormant. So that's what they're not doing. So we need to ask questions to our own people also, those who are not part of the AMU, but they are part of the power apparatus. So please talk to the individuals, people associated with those organizations, say what you are doing, how you are doing. Is there any way the youngsters can get joined that? What role we can play? Ask questions. Maybe they don't like it. As I said, maybe they don't like it. Let it be. But please, with respectfully, you don't have to confront with them. You don't have to fight with them. But with respectfully, you should ask questions and go with your homework that, hey, this organization has done these things, these so many things in the past, what they are doing now. So can you tell us? So if they will say that we don't have money to do this, so why you don't have money? So why not you are basically doing a fund? Why you do the public events? Why you not going to the public to talk about your organization, to talk about your achievements, to talk about your role, how you can play a role, and stick to the charter. And I know some people will say we are doing this, we are doing that. I will request them, and through you, talk to them that what is your charter, what you want to do, what you wanted to do, basically do to that. If all of a sudden the same organization started doing something else, it is not part of their charter. So please ask them not to do that, because that is not your charter. People have so many bad excuses, and I met most of them, and they said, no, we are doing that. I said, why? You're not supposed to do that. Your job is to do this. Otherwise, leave the organization, form a new organization. But anyway, so as I said, I'm going to conclude because it's becoming very late, 11:30, and it became long also. So Renaissance, the Aligarh Renaissance group, thank you for that. And I will again encourage, this cannot be covered in one session. So please, maybe we can organize a series of sessions on these individuals. I just threw the names, and I see in the chat box, Maulana Abdul Ansari's name popped up, and he was, to everybody's knowledge, he was the first Nazim-e-Diniyat of Aligarh MAO College, not Aligarh Muslim University, MAO College. When Sir Syed died, he was the one who led the prayer of Sir Syed, Namaz-e-Janaza. And of course, one of his descendants, Dr. Abdullah Ghazi, was based in Chicago. And I met him many, many times. And when I started my series, The Aligharians, the first article on wrote was on Dr. Abdullah Ghazi Sahab. Of course, Maulvi Chirag Ali, he was another strong supporter of Sir Syed. And in fact, in early 1900, when 1905 or 1906, when Maulana Abul Kalam Azad used to publish his newspaper Lisan Sid, he basically published a chart called Darbar Sayyid. So he gave 9 names that who was like a close ardent supporter of Sir Syed, and one of the name was, of course, Maulvi Chirag Ali. Allama Shibli's name was there, and so many other names. So we have a poster of that. Probably, if somebody is interested, I can share that poster with you. Darbar Sayyid was very popularly published in Lisan Sid. What happened there? Okay, I was talking. So that was the thing. As I said, like there are other many names to talk about, and one of the last names, sorry, I missed, Sir Ras Masood, who was the grandson of Sir Syed Ahmad Khan, and he played a very important role to groom MAO College into basically, sorry, not MAO College, to Aligarh Muslim University, establish the science faculty. He served as a vice chancellor for 6 years, and to everyone's surprise, he became vice chancellor at the age of 39. So people think that it's like very early age, young age, but he became vice chancellor at the age of 39. And before becoming vice chancellor of Aligarh Muslim University at the age of 39, he served as a state educational commissioner of entire state of Hyderabad. And in Hyderabad also in 1918, it was Sayyid Ras Masood who built the entire charter of the Usmania University, which is now known as Usmania University. So it was Sayyid Ras Masood and Habib Yar Jung, and Sir Akbar Haidari. So these are the 3 people who wrote the entire charter of Usmania University, and it was the first Urdu medium university in the Indian subcontinent. Usmania University was supposed to be Urdu medium university where medium of instruction was Urdu. It was established by Sir Ras Masood, entire charter. And later on, he served as the Anjuman Taraqi Urdu's president also. Similarly, as I said, there are many names. Maulvi Abdul Haq also, he made a lot of contribution to Urdu and this was also, Anjuman Taraqi Urdu was also came into existence in the educational conference annual session. Similarly, a very controversial thing was like a Muslim League. It was also came into existence in the annual session of All India Muslim Educational Conference. So, but anyway, then later on it became an independent organization. So that's another thing. So as I said, please go through the literature, read about it, talk about it, and more you talk about it. And I will encourage the group, this kind of group, to have more series of lecture, and we pick one individual at a time. And you don't have to pick me. There are so many people, learned people, and if you want me, I can give you the names and I can basically talk myself, but I can give you names for such a specific individual to request them to talk about these people, their contribution. And one key thing is that we don't only talk about their contribution, we try to imitate that. So it's not that people think that, hey, I'm too young to do anything and I don't know whether I should be able to. Doesn't matter how young you are. As I said, when Papa Mia started the movement, he was 26-year-old. So when he started talking about the girls' education, he was in early 20s, not like he was a same thing. So many other characters. Haji Ismail Khan of the Tawli, he was in 20s. Aga Khan was not old. Aga Khan was in 20s when he started fundraising for the Muslim University. So he was in the early 20s. He became Imam at the age of 19. So it's not that he was, when we see the picture, we think everybody was old when they started working. No, because we see the picture when they died. And even same thing with Sir Syed. We see the picture of Sir Syed with a long beard, white beard. We think he was always old. No, he was not always old. When he started doing things, he was in 20s, he was in 30s. When he wrote his very famous magnum opus, Asarus Sanadis, he was in 30s, early 30s. When he started Sayyidul Akhbar, he was in 20s. So many Asbab Baghawatain, he was 40 years old. So it's not that you have to wait for your retirement. You have to wait for you that once I got settled down, I will have get married, get children, and everybody is settled. Then only I can do the community work. No, that's not right. Whatever you can do in your youth, whatever the flame you can burn in your youth, that only can survive or sustain. If you try to wake up at the age of 50 like me, I don't think you can burn that flame. So please start early as possible. Whatever you can do, either academically, either socially, politically, to help the community, I will encourage you to do that. And do not waste your time on the social media to basically just debating, just like making like a bad comment. Just ignore them. Sometimes just ignore. You see some nasty things, just ignore them. Do your positive work. So at your age, or maybe a little bit more, I used to do that. I used to write a lot of emails, nasty emails, responding people of, but that was, of course, it comes with the age now. Definitely, I'm getting older, so trying to be more control myself. So I try to avoid, but of course, sometimes you have to respond. Sometimes you have to ask question in a positive way, in a mannered way. And asking question is not bad. Asking question in a mannered way is good thing. So you should ask question to your elders, to your seniors, in a respectful way, that, hey, this is happening, why this is happening, how we can change it in a positive way. So that, I think that's enough for me today. And from my side, thank you, Aligarh Renaissance, for inviting me for this talk. And as I said, this subject is very dear to me. And I shared the link in the blog. Again, I'm going to share the link. So please go through that one. And if you have any expertise on the website development, feel free to reach out to me. We can resurrect the website. I wrote a lot of things and collected a lot of things. And if we can build a new website with a lot of literature, books, and I will not say vast, but huge collection of digital books on Sir Syed, the Aligarh movement. And okay, somebody is asking like how I can detail to discuss further these important things. Feel free, you can reach out to me. I'm not very active, but active on the social media also. You can reach out to me on my phone is available, on WhatsApp or email. You can feel, and I'm involved with the Aligarh Alumni Association of Washington, DC, which is one of the oldest association in North America, or in fact, outside of Indian subcontinent. So no alumni association was established, continuously functional from 1975 till date. It's the 51st year. Last year we celebrated the Golden Jubilee, and you can see on my background, it is 50th year celebration. So still the logo is same. So feel free to reach out to me. And as I said, on Facebook also, I'm very active. Send a message to me and we can talk about that. And if Aligarh Renaissance is planning to organize a series of lecture, I'll be honored to give talk on these some individuals. So we can give basically choose one or two individual for per day, and then we can have a series on that. So that will be a fantastic thing to do, and I would love to do that. Thank you. Any question? Feel free to open your microphone and ask question. Maybe we can take a couple of questions also. या तो सब लोग बोर हो गए या तो प्लीज.
Thank you, sir, for your inspiring and insightful address. Now we'd like to begin our question answer session. So the audience members are encouraged to ask questions related to the topic of discussion today.
I see a question in the chat box. क्या Sir Syed Ahmad Khan का ख्वाब उनके companions के बगैर मुकम्मल हो सकता था? Of course not. No way. So any movement and one individual, of course, even it's not that basically I'm not comparing Sir Syed with Prophet Muhammad or anything, but just for analogy, even the religion, our religion flourished and basically continued and reached to us through his companions. Rasulullah died just after finishing the religion. He basically completing the religion, he died. So it was his companion who took that religion to across the width and depth of the world. So same thing, any movement cannot survive, cannot flourish, cannot continue with one individual. So as I said, Sir Syed was the central figure, but his companion, based on their abilities, based on their knowledge base, based on their dedication, they played their role to basically continue that movement. And of course, Sir Syed died in 1898. MAO College became basically a university in 1920. So it's like it took us 22 years. It was the companions who basically continued that momentum and basically started demanding to the British government, to the people, to the community, to get fund, to so many things. So it was the companions. It was not Sir Syed. He died. So without companion, I don't think any movement can survive. And I said, to become a companion, you don't have to live in that time frame, even though by definition it is but there are people who came after Sir Syed and they played very vital role to taking that movement to next level. And I see Atif Hanif also. Atif, good to see you. And I want to recognize Atif Hanif is one of the very talented young man, young Aligarh, who has done so much work on the Aligarh movement. his 2-volume book on Aligarh is basically a fantastic book and worth reading, worth reading to on that subject. And recently he published basically all the writings of Sir Syed in form of books. So please look for that book. And I have not seen the copies of that book. So I promised him to that during my next visit, inshallah, Aligarh, India, I will get that copies of those books. So please, so follow them. So Atif Hanif, good to see you, Atif. Any other question?
Sir, I have a question, though it is a bit controversial, but I still think that it is quite relevant. Sir, I have often heard and read at different places that when Sir Syed died, Syed Mahmud refused to arrange the last rites for him, and donation had to be raised and money had to be collected from the public to perform the last rites. And Iftikhar Alam Saab has also written the same story in his biography of Sir Syed. But I don't think that it can be really relevant because Syed Mahmud was someone who loved his father, and when he made a house for Sir Syed and there was no mosque nearby, he even made a mosque for Sir Syed. So I feel that this story is fabricated. What do you think about it, sir?
So it's a very good question that let me just to rephrase for the rest of the audience. The question is, there's a rumor or there's a story, of course, people wrote about that after Sir Syed's death, people have raised money for his janaza, tajheez takfeen, which is absolutely, in my humble opinion, is rubbish. The reason I have my own argument and I have my own research. Immediately after Sir Syed's death, in next month, April session of the MAO College magazine, and I have a copy of that magazine, and I published that copy on my blog also, on website also, and shared with the social media and everything. And very recently, one of my senior asked the same question, and I answered. That article itself described the entire process of Sir Syed's janaza funeral. So, and even it mentioned that which officers of the, because Sir Syed was at that time, Sir Syed was the Muslim leader across Indian subcontinent, especially northern India. So British knew about that. So his janaza was officially guard of honor, and there was like a district authorities were present during, and there was a complete procession route was defined and was basically taken. So how can this be happen that when a person of such stature died, and even the government knows that, and everybody's involved, and people will raise money for his janaza? That is like totally rubbish thing. So I will encourage you to read that article, and I will share with this group also, and even I'll post again on Facebook, my Facebook wall also, that the magazine published the whole route of the procession. And to what the research I did and what I found, in fact, what happened to one of Sir Syed's friends, the servant who came to deliver the news. At that time, there was a tradition that when some servant comes to deliver something to you, you give a gift to them. So he gave some money to that gift, and somebody saw that giving the money, and that news started spreading that it was they were collecting funds for the janaza. That was my research, and as I said, like I'm not a very, I will not, but my entire research is based on that article also and many other articles. So I don't find it very credible that it was done by Syed Mahmud. Somebody was saying something, please. आपकी आवाज नहीं आ रही अगर आप बोल रहे हैं तो.
Yeah, I have a question. I want to ask what specific steps did Sir Syed Ahmad Khan take for the education and empowerment of Muslim girls? And why are his contributions in this area less discussed compared to his work for higher education of Muslim boys?
So, first of all, let me clarify that Sir Syed Ahmad Khan, at that time, even the modern education or English education for the men was a problem, because not only the clergy, the Sir Syed's personal image, people used to think, especially the Islamic clergy, that he is a British man, and so many things were there against Sir Syed. So his basically they used to call because of his personal beliefs, not because of his what do you call movement. His personal belief, he has a difference of opinion. He was known as a naturist and all that. He wrote his own tafsir of the Quran and so many other things. So because of that, a big segment of the Islamic clergy, even Allama Shibli Nomani didn't like it. And he openly said that. And even Maulana Hamiduddin Farah, he didn't like it, and he openly denied that, no, Sir Syed, I'm not going to be endorsing your ideas. So anyway, that's a religious part. So because of that, there was a lot of opposition of Sir Syed. So he was struggling for even men's education, and people are blaming that whosoever goes to Aligarh will become basically a Christian, basically. In Urdu, they used to write Christian. So they will become Christian. So that was that's why they were opposing. Even Akbar Allahabadi initially opposed that. Later on, of course, he got convinced, no, Sir Syed is very sincere in his mission. So because of that, those time, you need to understand that was a different time frame we're talking about. Today, talking about women's education is more simpler than talking about in 1870s. So of course, Sir Syed did not start with women's education, and he was never known for the women's education. And even there's a one bad incident, which is basically, I personally researched on that. Mumtaz Ali, the father of Imtiaz Ali, basically the person who wrote the drama Anarkali, his Mumtaz Ali wrote a small article, and historically, when you start relating the story, that doesn't match, because the time frame he's talking about, he never met Sir Syed, but he described that I heard from so and that so never met Sir Syed. And so he said somebody took a proposal of women's education to Sir Syed's desk, and he basically threw them in a trash. So that was the story, and of course, it never found a credible source to back that story up. Of course, when in early 1900, when Sheikh Abdullah started that mission, and initially people were reluctant, because especially Muslim Mulk, he said, we are struggling for the men's education. If we start the women's education, we'll be in more trouble. Not because they hated women's education, they didn't want to encourage more trouble. But when Sheikh Abdullah got support from Begum Sultan Jahan, Atiya Faizi, and so many other, then he started that, and nobody opposed that. And later on, as I said, like the same people, those who are part of the All India Muslim Educational Conference, they give a special session to the women's education, and every session of All India Muslim Educational Conference, they were talking about women's education. And then, of course, they helped the women's college school, and then become college, and then later on they merged that college to the AMU. So did I answer your question, or we have more? So I see another question. What do you think Sir Syed Ahmad Khan's priorities would be if he were living in today's India? Of course, it's a big topic, and as I said, like what I have studied Sir Syed, what I've learned from Aligarh Movement, Sir Syed was a doer. And what I always been saying to everybody I talk about Sir Syed and Aligarh Movement, that Sir Syed's philosophy was not only education. His philosophy was, whenever he saw some kind of a challenge before the community, he tried to respond in a positive way to the best of his abilities. For example, and I will back my belief with the argument, with the backup. In 30s or 40s, when Sir Syed was very young, when he saw that architecture of Delhi, heritage buildings of Delhi are destroying and getting ruined, and basically they are dying. Of course, he was just a British servant. He didn't have that much money to rebuild those buildings and all that. So he wanted to preserve those buildings' literature, that what this building was, what kind of architecture was, what kind of inscription was on those buildings. So he wrote the Asarus Sanadid, and to your surprise, in fact, Qutub Minar, he took basically many servants, and basically he personally went on what you call trolley kind of a thing. He sat outside of the Qutub Minar tall building, and then basically lowered down himself and started reading and copying. There was no camera at that time. You cannot take a picture of those inscriptions. So he personally hand copied those inscriptions on the Qutub Minar and basically documented in his book Asarus Sanadid. And even the Western historian had reference of that Asarus Sanadid. If you want to study the architecture, old Mughal architecture or Delhi architecture, then you have to go through the Asarus Sanadid. So that was a challenge of the time. Sir Syed faced that challenge and write a book. He did not start any educational movement at that time. Similarly, when the Ghadar happened, or Bagawat happened in 1857, and British blamed Muslims, he basically came up with a series of essay known as Asbab Bagawat Hind. He wrote a book, The Causes of Indian Revolt. So he basically responded to the best of his abilities that no, Muslims are not responsible for this revolt. It was your mismanagement, so many things was responsible, and that's why Muslim revolted. Similarly, when he saw the deterioration in the cultural aspects of the community, he started Tehzeeb-ul Akhlaq. You look at the name of the magazine, Tehzeeb-ul Akhlaq. He wanted to build the character of the community, and there are so many series of articles on the character building were published in Tehzeeb-ul Akhlaq. So similarly, Aligarh Institute, when he saw that there was no basically Muslims do not have an intellectual journal and all that. So he started Aligarh Institute Gazette. So that's what I'm saying. Sir Syed was always looking at the challenge of the time and then he's responded to the best of his ability. So that's what I encourage the youngster. Look at the challenge of your time. What kind of a challenges you have? And from Sir Syed's story, you can respond to the best of your abilities in a positive way. It's not that for everything you have to have one solution cannot fit everything. So whatever the challenge you are seeing in your community, local community, global community, try to respond in a positive way to address that challenge. If you are living in an area where you see a lot of bad akhlaqi, a lot of basically bad manners, so you can start a campaign for the character building. If you are living in an area where education is basically a pleasure or people are not getting to education, you can have a campaign for the educational empowerment. You can prove with the arguments and prove with the evidence that, hey, education will not only lift the community, it will lift the family and lift the society. So that's how Sir Syed approached, in my humble opinion. That's how I read Sir Syed, and that's what I try to imitate, that wherever you go, whatever the challenges you are seeing before you, try to address that challenge in that fashion.
Thank you, sir. We are honored to have with us Dr. Afan Nazir, a distinguished academician, researcher, and internationally respected educator in the field of computer science. Dr. Afan Nazir is a proud alumna of Aligarh Muslim University, where she completed her advanced studies, including her Doctor of Philosophy in Computer Engineering from the Department of Computer Engineering, Aligarh Muslim University. With more than 18 years of academic and research experience, Dr. Nazir has made remarkable contributions in the field of higher education and technology. Her professional journey reflects the true spirit of Aligarh, combining knowledge, research, and service to society. Currently, she serves as an assistant professor and faculty member at the University of People, California, USA, where she teaches subjects related to computer science, data communication, and computer networking to students across the globe. Beyond teaching, Dr. Nazir is actively associated with international academic research communities. She contributes as an expert reviewer and technical committee member for several prestigious IEE international conferences, reflecting her strong global and academic presence. May I respectfully invite Dr. Afan Nazir to deliver the vote of thanks.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. On behalf of Aligarh Renaissance, I humbly deliver vote of thanks to our eminent speaker, Mr. Afzal Usmani Sahab. Your address was a lighthouse for our youth. Thank you for carrying Sir Syed's torch across continents. I would like to thank our young presenters, Maria, Anshra, Pariza, and Umar. You are the living proof that Aligarh movement is not a memory but a mission. To see class 12th student from AMU speak on Mohsinul Mulk with such clarity, and to see our alumni and students present on Raja Jai Kishan Das, Waqarul Mulk, and Altaf Hussain Hali, you have proven that the Renaissance is alive. You are the future Sir Syed hoped for, so keep shining. I would like to thank our anchor and audience for your grace and participation. And a very special thanks to our founder, Mr. Azfar Ali Khan, who planted a seed called Aligarh Renaissance, and today we see its shade across the world. It is often said that a single dream can move mountains. Tonight, we have witnessed the living proof of that truth. For your tireless dedication, your humility, your leadership, and your unwavering love for the mission of Sir Syed Ahmad Khan, we thank you from the bottom of our hearts. सर सैयद की ये महफिल है, चरागे इल्म जलता है, जवानों तुम सफा दो और ये रोशन संभलता है. May Allah bless every ear that listened and every heart that felt inspired today. Thank you so much.
With this, we conclude our program of discussion on the topic of the companions of Sir Syed Ahmad Khan and the architects of the Aligarh movement. Thank you everyone for joining today
Thank you.
in this discussion.
Thank you. Assalamu alaikum.